This quick video is for myself and it's regarding a compositing application called Natron. Natron is like a replica of Nuke and it's very similar in the way in what After Effects does, and it allows you to composite video. But the videos that you're compositing isn't necessarily video footage, it can be from image sequences, and this is the real reason why I'm learning this program. This video is particularly about compositing multi-layered files that are made up from different composite layers like reflection, speck and subsurface scattering and so on. There'd be many levels. The difference here is that we are talking about animation, not just a still image. If it was a still image, you could simply do that in Photoshop, although there are some limitations in Photoshop in that you can't do 32-bit editing in there. So this is Natron, and what I've got here before you is a image which is made up reflection, speck, and I can't remember what this one was. This one was lighting, so I'm just going to call this one lighting. Now I've composed these together using what's called a merge node, and the merge node simply allows you to choose your operation type, or the similar thing as to here, the blend type here. So the blend type, like in Photoshop, would be found in the merge, and you can merge two objects at once, which is why you may need multiple merge files. Now you can plug in one merge into another so that it carries through the information from the previous merge into the next merge. Now when you select on the merge, you'll see at the very top here you've got the operation, and plus means the same thing as linear dodge add. So linear dodge add is the same as plus in here. Each time you go plus, it will add it up together, and then what you do is you can take it to straight to your direct output, and I'll show you this to the viewer. Now this is a very basic setup. This is simply just combining the three layers together. Now what you may be thinking is this is a still image, but it's actually not. This is actually a image sequence, and within each of these layers contains hundreds of files. The difference is you don't have to see these hundreds of files, and I'll show you why. When you go to import these, you right click, you click, go image, and you go to read, and then what you do is you will go to wherever it is that contains all of your files. I'm just going to go to my desktop just to bring these up now and show you this. So I've got, these are the main ones: lighting, reflection and specular. In each of these you're going to have all of your image files from 0 up to however many frames you've got, and same for each one. You notice though that they're all named the same thing, so you need to make sure that you put them in their own respective folders. The next thing is you need to locate them. So I'm going to go into my my lighting folder, and as long as you've got the image sequence selected, if it's file you'll see all of them, sequence, it will recognize the sequence of similar images with different file names for the number, and you see that it says that it's got between 1 and 170 frames, and you select this one single object or item in here. From selecting this, it will then load it in as like an image stack, you could say, but you don't get to see the stack. What you'll get to see is one of these. So I've done the same thing for reflection, speck and lighting. The lighting tends to be best put last rather than at the beginning, because that's the way it best works in here. Otherwise you may get very strange results. Now in order to combine them together, you simply just press the M for merge, and you will load up a merge here. Now what you can do when you load this merge up is you can just drag the A into one of these, you drag the B into your second one, which is here, and then what you do is you go to your next one. I'm going to just copy this, copy and paste, and you drag where you want it to come from the next one. So you don't come out of here into here. You go from the one you want it to go to. You notice you've got this little arrow pointing its direction. This means you can just go like that, and then it's going to combine them together. And then you've got this set up. Now when you select these individual ones and you select the operation to plus, it's over by default, you finally need to have your image viewer. And again, that can be got from the image viewer. And what you do is you plug your image viewer into there from the final output, and then you'll see this in the image viewer, which is what this represents. Now this is only a very basic setup, but of course you can see how this works. So why would you want to do this in the first place? Well, hopefully it would be quite obvious. Now what I want to show you next is, let's just spread these out a little bit, is that what you can do is you can hold down the control key and you can create another, like an angle, and it allows you to kind of separate items more cleanly, you could say. Now if you want to add a specific effect or color grading, you can either right click, you go to color, and you can add an effect, so like color correction. You notice that it just puts it anywhere in here. Holding the Alt key, or should I say Control key, it allows you to push it into an existing lever or layer. Okay, like that. That's one way you can add it. The other way you can add it is by selecting the node that you want it to apply to. Right click and go to color, for instance, and color correct, and it automatically puts it in there. So you can see that's what it does. Now you can do that, and you can stack up as many as you want, but you just got to make sure that you to select the one that you want to come after or before. So if you want to get another one after that, you go to color, and you may want that one there. Now when you just double click on these, you'll see these come up to the right hand side, so you can adjust them. So you've got hue, saturation, and stuff like that. And whenever you do that, what you do is you update the scene in here. So let's go to the color correction as an example here. You may not see a great deal because this particular layer is a specular layer. But let's try this with the lighting, because there is a bit of color on the lighting at least. You can also apply it at the very end as the end result, but of course the whole point of doing this is that you've got control over each individual element. So you can go onto here. Now, I haven't gone through all of these yet. Let's go on grade, and we've got multiply, we've got gamma. It's probably not too helpful to us. Let's try another one. Color suppress, hue. Not too sure what half of these are, to be quite honest with you. Color correction, that looks like something that's probably more helpful to us. And we've only got one little bit of color in here, and that is the little ball which is red. And then what we can do is we can just maybe make it less saturated, you can see that, or even more saturated. You can also add effects, so like a filter, like a bloom. You can see now we've got this real-time post effect to make it look as though it's illuminated. And the difference is of course we've got an animation. This is an animation. So that's the whole point of being able to do this, and the more multi-passes you've got, the more you can do to it, which is pretty good. The only downside is that at the moment I'm not able to work out how to get some denoising done in here, and the denoising process, unfortunately, as far as I understand at the moment, is not possible to export a openexr file which contains all of the information that we need to then pass it through the denoiser as an output. So next thing is how do you write the file? Well, you go right click, you go image, and you go to write, and then you want to choose where you want to write it to. So I don't know where we are in this. We go into there, which I believe is in here. I'll just call this new folder, delete me, just for this video. And then you can choose the name that you want. So if you wanted an output an image sequence, I'm going to go to say for a PNG or something like that, or you can go for an EXR. And by typing it in here, it automatically selects it as a file type over here, which is, I think, is quite handy to be able to do. And then you click save. Now the write node needs to be connected to the very last node, which is this one here. And what you do is when you select this write node, you can click render, and then it should render out. It's saying you're trying to render a frame range of 0 to 70, but you did not specify any hash character or print like format for the padding. This will result in the same image being overwritten multiple times. Would you like to continue? Okay, so I don't understand how to do that quite yet, to export that. And by the way, this is assuming that we want to export a sequence. Okay, so I need to understand a little bit more about how to, I don't know, export a sequence file. I really don't know how that works. I'm just sort of having a stab in the dark here. And this is obviously, so what you can do is you can separate the files out. So what I'm going to do in this particular case is I'm going to go and write out a different file type, because I'm not quite understanding what's going on with this. So I'm going to go for AVI, and then I believe there's only a couple of things that we need to change in here. I think it's in the advanced tab. The global quality of that is pretty bad. And I think you put it to 0 or something. 0 means near lossless, and then you render it out, and it should render out your video. There it is there. Obviously you have to go to your project settings to check out the frame rate and stuff like that. There it is. It's a pretty low quality image, I know. But there you go. The project settings, if you go up to the top here, display project settings, it will show at the top. This is where you can set how many frames you've got, frames per second that you're working in. I think it's 30 frames per second, 29 frames per second. And then your write output, click on your mode graph, and you can go back to here, and you can make sure this is matching what your input frames per second is. That will result in the correct frame rate. Okay, that's more like it. Yeah, and that's it. So that is how we can combine or be able to composite them together. What about if we just wanted to bring in a single EXR file that has multiple layers? Well, that is also possible to do. I'm going to show you how to do this. It's quite interesting, in fact, and it's a way in which you can split your animation into multiple parts. So I'm going to go to a new project, and what we're going to do is we're going to just use a drag and drop method next. So these are the Vray images, the originals. These are the denoised Vray images. Okay, and these obviously haven't got nothing inside them. And then I believe these are the I think these are the raw images. Just got to check that, because you have to have an EXR file that contains all of them. I don't think I've done it actually by the looks of it. So what you do is I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call this all. It's going to have all of the layers, because you can see here I've done these separately, but we want to combine them into one EXR file. So when I use this tool, the Vray image to EXR, you can choose individual channels, which is what I did for this. Okay, reflection light, but you can actually combine them all together if you wanted to have them all in one single EXR file, and I'll show you how this is done. So we're going to open up this. I don't want to have no compression. I don't want to have a single input. I want to have multiple files. I want to select, make sure all channels are on, and I'm going to go to input directory, and this is where I'm going to select my folder. Just got to check here that this is the right place. Yeah, the Natron output, that's the one. That's for the input files. Okay, it's done that. And the output directory, it's a shame it doesn't remember my last location. I'll have it in all. And that's it. All I have to do now is click on convert, and it's going to convert all of my frames into EXR files, remembering that each EXR has multiple multi-passes within there. So I click on convert. You can see it's taken a bit of time because we're converting the larger file. Normally what we would do is we would convert it to EXR after we've done the denoising, but when it does the denoising it loses all your multi-layers, which is why it's a lot quicker than doing it this way. Doing it this way allows you to have all of your images converted to EXR with all of the multi-passes in place, or multi-parts. It's a shame you could not just checkbox certain channels so that it combines it into one. That would be a shame, and that it doesn't do that. You can choose multi-part export, but we don't want to do it in this particular case. We just want to demonstrate how we can get EXR file and use that file to pull up the different multi-layers. So we've got 50 frames done here. It's getting through it. It's a shame that Vray doesn't export EXR files with multi-layers, because this is the process you have to go through, which is a very nasty pain, especially if you've got thousands of frames. That's the only problem with this process. That is why I went in there and I extracted only the ones that I wanted, the layers, and it went through it far quicker by doing it that way. This way it's extracting layers that you may not need, and the reason why it's taking so long, by the way, is because in Cinema 4D I added a denoiser, and this denoiser adds loads of additional channels that you probably wouldn't need. I'll just show you these in here. You see you've got all these layers. You probably wouldn't need them if you're not going to do any denoising. Then it's going to take a short amount of time. But I want to do this just to demonstrate this to you anyway. So it's got quite a few in there by this point, and I'm going to click on cancel just so that you can see that I've got a good number in there. And we're going to go through the same process as before. We're going to just right click and click on read, image, read. The difference this time is that in the all one here, for an image sequence, it's going to load them in. Now this is just loading like an image stack of all of the frames into one single node. The difference with this one single node is that if you look at the top left and you click on this little button drop down, you've got all of the image layers within this one single file, and I know that I need 3. Let's just disconnect this for the moment. So I'm going to copy this and paste it. It's the same file, okay? The difference is that I'm going to change what we're going to get from that file. That's the difference. So the first one is going to be, say, reflection. So I'm just going to make sure I look over to here. I'm going to call this one reflection, just so I can see it. And then you go down to here on the output layer and you select that one, so a reflection. Now this is the next one. I'm going to call this one spec. Specular. And this one here, lighting. And then what you've got from this is you've got 3 separate files, and you can view them individually, see there, but it's actually come from one single image sequence input because it's an EXR, an openexr. All you have to do then is just use your merge as normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click M for merge. We need 2 of these, and we have them to plus. Plus, and we just combine them, tie that one to there, and then tie the viewer into there. There you go, you've got the multi-pass. Very similar setup as to before. The difference is you don't have to load them in one by one, you can just load it in once, and then obviously you can apply what you need to it. If I was to look at, say, some of these, the specular's got a lot of noise, so that may be something that I would choose to put where is it, a denoiser on. That might help a bit in the process. I've got no joy out of it so far, but there you go anyway. So that will stop this video. How to use EXR, openexr files, how to bring them in separately into an image sequence like I've done with this, lighting, reflection and spec. and the next thing I've got to learn, which will be the next video, is how to export them as a image sequence, and that would only be of use really if I found a way of how can I put it, apply some denoising in Vray. So far I've got no luck in doing that. Just briefly to tell you about that, when you export with your writer, you can choose to have a EXR format. EXR, and you can choose what layer you want. You click on all panes, it's going to choose all your layers. You can choose how the layers are going to be split, but unfortunately it does not export exactly the same layout. When you open it up in here, it's not the same as it should be. It should look like that, where it says noise level, but it actually doesn't have that. It's actually got, I've actually renamed it, but that's what it should look like, and when it comes in different. So it means it's not compatible with Vray Denoiser Standalone, which is a bit of a pain.